Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Miles, I use they them pronouns, and I like to talk about books. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you. And I did want to touch on really quick before we got into the video today that just like an hour ago, I just hit 200 subscribers on my channel, which is crazy. I have had this channel for like a year and a half or so now, and I just never thought it would get to that point, and it means a lot to me. I am going to be doing a Q&A video to celebrate, so if you have any questions literally about anything, personal, book recommendations, YouTube, whatever, drop those down below. I'm also going to be making some like Instagram posts about that though, so if you follow me on there, you'll see that. But I just wanted to start off the video with a huge thank you to everybody who has watched my videos and who has subscribed and who has stuck with me, or if you tell your friend about my videos or something like that. It means a lot, and it is just so exciting to hit 200 subscribers, which is a milestone that I never really thought I would hit. So thank you. Anyways, if you've been around a while, you might remember last year that I did make a fall recommendations video already. So if you want more recommendations after this, go ahead and check that one out. But today I have a whole new list, a bunch of new stuff, and I'm also going to be sharing my personal fall TBR and my like current reads with you. So we have quite the video ahead of us, so feel free to get a nice cozy little drink and a nice cute little Halloween mug, light a candle, and let's hang out, let's chat, let's talk books, let's talk Halloween. Yeah. So to start, I have a couple Gothic recommendations, and first up is Carmilla by Joseph Sheridan Le Fanu. And this is a very, very like Victorian Gothic. It's a novella, so it's perfect for just like a one-sitting read, like cozy in bed on a fall day. It follows the protagonist Laura, who lives alone with her father in the Styrian countryside. And through a strange series of events, an enchanting young woman named Carmilla comes to stay with them. And from then on, things kind of start to get strange. They develop a very, very, very close relationship, and something is just super off about Carmilla. And based on the cover, you might be able to infer what is wrong with Carmilla. But it is a really fun little novella. It is not very scary. It's creepy, but most importantly, it's super gay. My edition is actually edited by Carmen Maria Mikado, and it has these really wonderful illustrations in it. Like, this is so sick. Like, it's so cool. So I would definitely recommend Carmilla if you want a small little vampire story, a quaint little vampire lesbian love story. This is where to go. It's a lot lesser known than Dracula, but it actually came out before Dracula and heavily inspired Bram Stoker in his characters, specifically Mina and Lucy, if you've read Dracula. So if you like Dracula, if you like lesbian vampires, this started that trope. So check out Carmilla. Very good. Perfect for like one afternoon read. Addie even has her little Halloween bandana on, so she's feeling very festive. Next, I would recommend What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. I read this a couple weeks ago and I really liked it. It really got me into the fall mood. It's very atmospheric. It follows, I think the protagonist's name is Alex. They are a retired soldier and they find out that their childhood friend is dying. She's very sick, so they go visit her, and they get there and there's this weird like fungus infesting everything. Their friend is acting super strange, like sleepwalking and being really creepy. Something's very off. And this is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher. So if you've read that, I have not read it since I was in like 6th grade, so I cannot speak to you on how good of a retelling it is. However, it was super entertaining on its own. It's a perfect short little novella, once again, to just like read cozied up on a fall afternoon. There's also gender non-conforming representation in this, which I really appreciated, and it was pulled off really well, and I really liked the kind of like reveal that happens at the end. It was just a great little book. I really want to reread The Fall of the House of Usher, especially because I just found out that Mike Flanagan is doing that as his next show. He also did The Haunting of Hill House and Haunting of Bly Manor and Midnight Mass and all of that. Next, he's adapting The Fall of the House of Usher. So, anyways, What Moves the Dead was very good. It was a perfect little atmospheric, creepy, spooky, mushroomy read. I would recommend. Next, I want to recommend Clive Barker's Books of Blood. I have only read the first volume. I have the other two on my shelf. I'm hoping to read them soon. But this is such a wonderful little story collection. If you are looking to get that like retro 80s horror vibe, but don't want to read like Stephen King or something super basic, this is it. Clive Barker is criminally underrated. All of these stories are so good. Like, they have their moments where they are really unsettling and scary, but some of them are just true like horror comedy, some of them are folk horror, but they're all pulled off so well. A few of my favorites there's this one called Pig Blood Blues, which follows this man that is working in like a juvenile detention facility, and they have like a farm off to the side with a bunch of pigs, and something is really weird about these pigs, and something is really weird about the juvenile detention facility. That's a really fun one. There's also one called The Yattering and Jack, which follows this demon from hell called the Yattering that is tasked to live in this man Jack's house and just completely unseen, just drive him fucking crazy. It's really funny, it's really strange. That's a really good one. I also really like In the Hills, the Cities, which follows two men who are on a road trip that get stuck in the middle of this crazy, like, ancestral fight between these two rural cities. That's a wonderful, like, folk horror story. He just, like, masters all of these weird little subgenres, and when you think that, like, he's about to take something too far, he does, and it still works somehow. So, I would definitely recommend Books of Blood. Super fun little read. You could just read one story, and you're good to go, but you just gotta experience it yourself. And I also love this cover. It's fucking crazy. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the other two in this edition, but Books of Blood, good stuff. Next up is a super obvious recommendation, but I don't care. I'm gonna tell you to reread Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, especially if you haven't read it in a long time. I have my treasury over here, which has all three of them together, but just like, I don't know. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is the best. Look how creepy those illustrations are. If you haven't revisited this series in a long time, I would highly recommend it. It's just so fun. Like, you really can't go wrong with it. And I mean, like, they're perfect for sitting around a campfire with some friends, read them out loud for extra fun. I don't know. We all know about Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, but I'm just here to tell you that if it's been a long time since you've read it, you should check it out again. They're ridiculous, they're fun, but they're kind of scarier than you remember. Like I feel like everyone has like a Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark story that scarred them forever, and mine is High Beams, which I think I can find in here somewhere, but follows the girl driving home, and the guy behind her keeps flipping on his high beams, and she's like, what's wrong with this guy? What's he doing? And someone's been in her backseat the whole time. That scared the fuck out of me. Literally every time I get into my car now, I check to make sure no one's in my backseat because of that story, and I always have. Anyways, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. You should read it again. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's Halloween. Be stupid.
I wanted to give you a slight spoiler warning for this one. I just said everything that's on like the back of the book essentially, but honestly, I went into this book not knowing any of these things that happen earlier in the book, so that's why I included them. But I went into it not knowing those. I do think it provided a better reading experience, so if you're not wanting to get a blurb and you just want to like trust me that it's good, just skip until the end of this segment. But I just want to put that in there. I don't think it's crazy spoilers, but I also feel like I don't know. It was kind of like a scary movie where it's like it's better if you don't know anything going into this. Anyways, back to the video.
Next, I wanted to talk about This Thing Between Us by Gus Moreno. I read this like a year ago and it has really stuck with me. It was such a good debut. It's super eerie and kind of in the same vein as I'm Thinking of Ending Things. It follows a man and his wife who have experienced really weird like goings on in their house ever since they got an Itza, which is basically an Amazon Alexa. They're having lots of like cold spots and like weird noises in the middle of the night. The Itza's shipping strange things to their house. But eventually that all culminates in nothing. His wife is killed very publicly and very suddenly, and her story is hijacked by like politicians and the news to like spread their own personal agendas. And he cannot fucking stand it, so he moves to this like little house in the middle of Colorado to be alone and grieve, but something follows him there, and that's the rest of the story. I'm going to connect it to I'm Thinking of Ending Things again, because it's just has that same like creeping sense of dread throughout the entire book. And it is so unsettling. It also has like that like long road trip drive, cabin in the woods. It is so freaky. I cannot recommend it enough. I'm planning to do a reread of it soon. The Goodreads blurb says it's about grief, loneliness, and the oppressive intimacy of technology, which is very on point. That kind of describes everything. I also want to throw out a trigger warning for an animal death that is pretty upsetting, so be prepared for that going in, but this is just such a good, eerie horror novel if that's what you're looking for your Halloween reading. Next, I want to recommend an absolute favorite of mine, which is Slew Foot by Brom. I read this last year. It was in my Best Books of 2021 video. It follows a woman named Abatha who is married off to go live in a Puritan colony in the Americas, and she gets there and she isn't around for too long until her husband dies of mysterious circumstances. And all of the townspeople hate her. She's an outsider. She has this whole farm to herself now. She doesn't know what to do. But soon she comes across some things in the forest that have been around for a long time and have been lying dormant for a long time. And with this, people start accusing her of being a witch. This is very much vibes of like Fear Street, 1666, The Witch. If you liked either of those, I would definitely recommend checking this out. It's very like dark fairy tale meets self-discovery meets revenge story vibes. It's also beautifully illustrated. I can show you. It has these like inserts in the middle of the book. Like this is Abatha. Can't really see it too well because of my lighting. These are some of the weird little creatures in this book. When I saw these motherfuckers, I knew right then that I had to read this book. And it was in my top 5 books of last year. I think it was my second favorite book of last year. I love this book so much. I really need to do a reread of it. If you want a scary, spooky, witchy, good for her type story, this is where it's at. And then for the people that get scared a little easier and maybe want something a little more lighthearted, I have some graphic novel recommendations for you. They're definitely still pretty creepy, but it feels a little more approachable than just This Thing Between Us or Slew Foot or something a little more intense. So for the faint of heart, I would recommend Garlic and the Vampire by Brie Paulson. This follows a sweet little sentient clove of garlic that has been turned sentient by a little witch, and her and all of her other vegetable friends live and work on the witch's farm. It's so fucking cute. Like, the illustrations are wonderful. And the conflict in this story is when a vampire moves to town, and everyone decides, obviously, that Garlic would know how to handle that. And the rest of it is just her getting over her anxiety and figuring out how to confront this vampire. It's a super sweet, quick read. It's very like over the garden wall feeling. yeah, this is a wonderful little Halloween read. Next, I want to recommend Harrow County, which is such a good Southern Gothic graphic novel series, spooky read. It follows a girl named Emmy who finds out she's the descendant of a powerful witch. And the same night, she finds out that there are a bunch of crazy supernatural creatures that have always been hidden in her town. And the rest of the story follows her as she accepts her heritage and as the town finds out who she is, what they do about that. New crazy people coming to town. It feels kind of episodic in a way, following that kind of like comic book volume structure. It kind of goes all over the place, but in a good way. It feels like Fear Street meets We Have Always Lived in the Castle, almost. That's kind of a strange comparison, but I think it works. I could have used a little more character depth and development, but it's a graphic novel. It was really sweet. I think it's still coming out too. I've read the first volume and I really enjoyed it. And it is just a perfect little like end of summer, early fall graphic novel read. Next, I want to recommend Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. And I mentioned this in one of my last videos, so you might remember it from then. I'll throw up a few illustrations as well, because that's what's really gonna sell you on this graphic novel. It takes you through like 5 stories, I think, that all surround these woods, and they do feel a little classic scary story, but what makes this are the illustrations. They are beautiful, they are unsettling, they are scary. The stories do feel like classic ghost stories, but they have a modern twist. They feel like weirdly timeless. Sometimes they can feel a little predictable, but that's okay. I also really like, one of my favorite parts of this is the epilogue, so stick around for that. It is just such a great little story collection. Once again, like, great to read just in the span of an afternoon. So those are all of my book recommendations. I also wanted to throw out a podcast recommendation, which I haven't done before, but recently I've been listening to a lot of the Palimpsest podcast, written by my friend and professor, Jamie Ridenauer. It is wonderful. It is so creepy. It all takes place, there's multiple seasons, but they're kind of like anthologized. It's different characters, but in the same house that, for reasons that haven't been explained yet, this house travels through space and time. So the first season takes place in America, I think in modern times. The second season takes place in Victorian England. The most recent one takes place in the 90s in America as well, I think. But they all take place in this spooky little house. It just hops through like genres and time zones, and it is just a really fun podcast to listen to. I would specifically recommend the 4th season because it scared the shit out of me. If you've never listened to an audio drama, first of all, you should, because they have these like, I don't know, they literally act out what's going on. So you have headphones in, you're listening to the protagonist talk about something scary that's happening, and then like you hear in your headphones like knocks at the door or scratches or screams, and it just gets me. It gets me so scared. So I would highly recommend the Palimpsest podcast. That has just been something really fun that has helped me get into the Halloween mood. So those are all my recommendations, but I do want to tell you what I am currently reading and what I am reading for the rest of fall, not just for Halloween, but just fall in general. I kind of have a massive TBR, but I still wanted to share it. I just finished reading Interview with a Vampire by Anne Rice, and I liked it. I gave it a 3.5. I can't really decide yet, but I did enjoy it. I did just have some issues with the way one of the characters, Claudia, was written. If you haven't read it, she is a 5-year-old girl that is turned into a vampire, and she stays in the body of a 5-year-old girl the whole time, and that just has some creepy implications with the way other characters treat her and the way Anne Rice described her, and I just don't really like it that much. I also felt like the beginning was pretty boring. The latter half of the book really saved it for me though. It was a lot more interesting. So I read Interview with a Vampire. I am currently reading Peter Straub's Ghost Story, which I'm really enjoying. It's taken me a long time to get through just because I have a lot of other stuff going on, and it's a really big book, but I'm loving this. It is really scary, so good stuff. I recently bought The Haunting of Hill House. This was in last year's fall recommendations video, and I am planning on doing a reread. I got this at Barnes & Noble the other day, and I walked in, and my friend and I were doing like a little study date there. I wanted to buy Haunting of Hill House, but I also am pretty broke right now, so I was like, I don't know if I need to get it. And I reached for the book. It was also on the first day of October. It sets the mood. I reached for the book and immediately got a paper cut on the book and bled on the cover of the book. So I was like, I guess I have to have it. But that also felt like, I don't know, maybe that means something. First day of October, bleeding on my copy of Haunting of Hill House. I don't know. I'm also currently reading Dark Harvest, which my girlfriend bought for me last year and I saved so I could read it during the Halloween season, and I am glad that I saved it for now because it is the perfect thing to get me into the mood. It almost feels like, I don't know, it's giving me very like The Long Walk, but if it was weirder and Halloween. It feels like Stephen King, where it's like, I'm just an old man sitting you down and telling you about this story of things that happened. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It's fun. My girlfriend also bought for me last year, There is a Graveyard That Dwells in Man. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know anything about this. It is a story collection, strange fiction and hallucinatory tales. Cool. I really want to check it out. I really love the cover, and the inside cover of it is really cool as well. So yeah, I'm gonna check that out soon because I want to read some scary short stories. And then I'll just read my little TBR for you really quick just so you can see everything else that I'm planning to read that I just don't have physical copies of. I am planning on reading Hell House by Richard Matheson, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, Clown in a Cornfield, The Taking of Jake Livingston, Thistlefoot, Cunning Folk by Adam Neville, The Good House, Dark Tales by Shirley Jackson, Cycle of the Werewolf by Stephen King. And yeah, that's my fall TBR. Those are my fall recommendations. That's everything I have for you today. Thank you again so much for 200 subscribers. I'm really excited to start working on this little Q&A video with y'all. I think it'll be really sweet. Once again, ask me if you have any questions for that. Just put them down in the comments below. Have you read any of these books? What are your thoughts on any of these books? What's on your fall TBR? Please let me know. I would love to know. Just comment down below, like and subscribe if you want to. Yeah, that's everything. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you're having a wonderful fall season. I hope you're having a great time, like getting into the Halloween mood. And if I don't post any more before Halloween, I hope you have a happy Halloween. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.